Hope you guys enjoyed that rendition of Hammurabi's Code. And I think we'll play it every day from here on out for the rest of the Mesopotamia and Hammurabi lesson, just so you can kind of get that song in your head and some of those ideas and lessons. Noticing that Hammurabi was someone who united the people under one belief that he was chosen by a god, and so all the people that were underneath him have that same belief system that we need to do well for Hammurabi. He is chosen by the gods. We can't go against the gods, that's for sure. So everyone will believe that because it's one uniting idea, which helped Hammurabi have a great leadership over his people. Plus, you can tell in this document, we're going to read it here in a second, that he seems to try to do his best to be fair. After conquering people and uniting them together, he wants to do well by his people. He wants them to prosper and he wants things to be fair in his land. So I'm going to read through this simply because this particular document is a good one where you may find some information for your CER. Hammurabi's Code, was it just? So just right now, you don't need anything on your desk. You can look up at the screen where your teacher has this being played and just follow along, kind of listening for something you might have missed on Tuesday, something that you might not have caught on to, something that maybe makes you think a little bit differently. And then we're going to go through the answers. So just phase one is just listening. Okay, nearly 4,000 years ago, a man named Hammurabi became king of a small city-state called Babylon. Today, Babylon exists only as an archaeological site in central Iraq. But in Hammurabi's time, it was the capital of the kingdom of Babylonia. So you can actually go there and see some of these things, but of course, Iraq is a little unstable. So maybe not super safe right now, but hopefully eventually that can become a place to visit if you're interested. We know little about Hammurabi's personal life. We don't know his birth date, how many wives and children he had, or how and when he died. So wives and children multiple would have been normal for that time period. We aren't even sure what he looked like. However, thanks to thousands of clay writing tablets that have been found by archaeologists, we know something about Hammurabi's military campaigns and his dealings with surrounding city-states. We also know quite a bit about everyday life in Babylonia, which is pretty cool that we can figure that stuff out for so long ago. The tablets tell us that Hammurabi ruled for 42 years. For the first 30 of these years, Hammurabi's control was limited mostly to the city of Babylon. He was involved in what one historian calls lots of squabbles with other small kings and other small city-states, some of them no more than 50 miles away. This changed, however, with victories over Larsa in the south and Mari in the north. Hammurabi became the ruler of much of Mesopotamia. So we can see that even back thousands of years, humans still like to squabble with each other. And it was happening then, and it continues to happen now in some degrees. Hammurabi was not starting with a blank slate. Beginning around 3500 BCE, the Sumerian people had developed Mesopotamia into the world's first civilization. By the time Hammurabi took power in 1792 BCE, before Common Era, cuneiform writing had already been around for 1,700 years. So there were some things in place for Hammurabi to find success when he took control. Hammurabi would eventually rule over an estimated population of 1 million. Most of his subjects were farmers. The people lived in city-states surrounded by fields and watered by irrigation canals that were fed by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Noticing the irrigation canals are key. They're mentioning those because that allowed for a larger population because they could produce more food. After his victories at Larsa and Mari, Hammurabi's thoughts of war gave way to thoughts of peace. These in turn gave way to thoughts of justice. In the 38th year of his rule, Hammurabi had 282 laws carved into a large pillar-like stone called a stele. Together, these laws have been called Hammurabi's Code. Historians believe that several of these inscribed steles were placed around the kingdom, though only one has been found intact. Boys and girls, thinking about, so Hammurabi must have been an innovative type of guy, in my opinion, because in his 38th year, he decides to come up with these laws and to publish them and to post them. So it seems like he was constantly thinking, how can I be better? How can my land be better? How can I do better for my people? Kind of cool, kind of interesting. Hammurabi was not the first Mesopotamian ruler to put his laws into writing, but his code was the most complete. By studying his laws, historians have been able to get a good picture of many aspects of Babylonian society, work, and family life, social structures, trade, and government. For example, we know that there were three distinct social classes: landowners, free people who did not own land, and slaves. The many farms and irrigation laws tell us that Babylonians depended upon crops for their survival. That makes sense. Scrolling down. The code also tells us of everyday problems, like buildings collapsing, oxen getting loose and trampling fields, and neighbors squabbling, much as they do today. Hammurabi tried to bring order and fairness to it all. What follows are 5 documents that provide a sampling of Hammurabi's laws. Some students at Babylonia have found the laws overly harsh. Others have found them to be quite balanced, giving the hard realities of ancient life. So you have to think about that. We are not in 2021 when we are thinking about these laws. We are thousands of years ago, right? We were in the time of Hammurabi. You have to put yourself back into that time frame as much as you can and kind of theorize and think about what would have been like? How would I have had to act? Why would they have this law? Was it necessary? So you have to kind of think of the time frame. We cannot judge these laws and rules based on 2021. We have to go back in time. Let's see. Okay, so on this basically the CER, you're going to have to think about the 3 levels of fairness: fairness to the accused, fairness to the victim, and fairness to the all of society. It's pretty interesting to put yourself in others' shoes. You know for sure what your opinion is when you're in your shoes. But what about other people? What about other groups? And that becomes the challenge and the interesting part. And that will become the debate and the talk, and that will get you to your answer on Hammurabi's Code. Was it just? Okay, boys and girls, our next step is going to be to go over these answers. I'm going to pull up the document and type with you. You should already have the answers typed in, right? But if you missed a piece, if you want to add to it, you'll have the chance. So right now, when I pause, go ahead and get your answers up from Tuesday, and then make any changes you want to make so that you have a complete document with answers, and then you can go back to that for your CER reference. Okay, I'll see you back in a couple seconds here.